Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're jumping into a frustration I think a lot of us in analytics have felt, designing variables that actually make our models work. We're going to break down how you can turn your raw data into something with real predictive power.
So you know the feeling, right? You've done all the hard work. You've gathered tons and tons of data. You've got a really clear business problem to solve. You run your algorithm, and the results are just flat. The model isn't picking up on the signals you know are there. You're left wondering, what on earth is going wrong?
Well, a lot of the time, the problem isn't your algorithm, and it's not that you don't have enough data. It's the data itself. See, raw data, the stuff that comes straight out of a source system, often has what we call low discriminatory power. It's just a fancy way of saying it's messy, it's full of nulls, or it's just not structured in a way that helps the algorithm tell the difference between a good outcome and a bad one.
So what's the fix? The solution isn't always to just get more data. It's to get smarter data, and that right there is where performance variables come into the picture.
Now, performance variables aren't just the raw fields you pull from a database. Nope. These are variables you thoughtfully craft. You design them. They're built to summarize historical data and trends to uncover those deep, hidden patterns that raw data just can't show you. It's kind of like taking raw crude oil and refining it into high-octane fuel for your model.
And this is why they're such a game changer. I mean, they can literally rescue a project that's about to fail. They also let you keep fine-tuning your models over time, and that gives you a massive competitive edge. It's all about turning that messy raw data into insights you can actually use.
Okay, so that's the what and the why. Now for the fun part, the how. How do we actually build these things? We're going to walk through three really key techniques, starting with one of the most fundamental. First up is a classic, and it's super effective. It's the technique of taking continuous data, numbers that could be almost anything, and sorting them into discrete buckets. Let's just take a quick look at an example here. Think about something like a credit score. In your raw data, you could have hundreds of unique values. That's a lot of noise for a model to deal with. But if we group those scores into a few logical ranges or buckets, suddenly the model only has to worry about, say, 5 or 6 categories instead of hundreds of different numbers. Much cleaner.
So why is this so powerful? Well, it's because algorithms can figure out patterns and assign importance way more easily when they're working with a small, manageable set of values. It gives the data structure, which makes the patterns pop.
But, and this is a really big but, you can't just create random buckets and call it a day. How you design them is absolutely crucial. Let's look at the difference between getting it wrong and getting it right.
Okay, so look at this. This is a classic mistake. You see how almost all the data, like 80% of it, is crammed into that one middle bucket? This variable is totally skewed. It's not giving the model enough variety to learn from, which means its predictive power is going to be really, really low.
Now this is what we're aiming for. See the difference? The goal is to design your ranges so that you get a nice, healthy distribution of your population across the buckets. This gives the model meaningful diversity to work with, which dramatically boosts its ability to find those important patterns. All right, let's move on to our second technique. This one is all about understanding the nature of your values, because believe it or not all categories are created equal. It is so important to know if your variables are nominal or ordinal. So nominal values, like store type, don't have any natural order to them, right? Urban isn't better or worse than suburban. But ordinal values, like risk level, have a very clear logical progression, from low to medium to high. Knowing this difference is key because it changes how the model interprets the data. Okay, and for our final technique, let's talk about where the real power of performance variables comes from, and that is the concept of aggregation. Your whole process starts with what we call atomic data. This is the super granular, lowest level information you have. Think of a single sales transaction, or one click on a website, or one loan payment. On its own, a single piece of atomic data is pretty much just noise. But here's where the magic happens. You take that atomic data and you summarize it. You aggregate it into a much more powerful performance variable. You're basically moving up from the transaction level to the customer level. A single transaction becomes total year-to-date sales. A single website click becomes an online user flag. You're creating a new feature that tells a whole story about behavior over time. And that really brings us to this key idea. Creating these variables is both an art and a science. You need the business knowledge, that's the art, to have a hunch about what might be important, and you need the technical skill, that's the science, to actually build it the right way. And honestly, this is where you can make the biggest possible difference in whether your model succeeds or fails. So, I'll leave you with this question to think about. Your raw data is hiding incredibly valuable patterns, but you can't see them by just throwing the raw material into an algorithm. What insights could you unlock if you just took the time to design the right variables?
And that's our look at designing effective performance variables. Hey, if you found this useful, do me a favor and hit that like button, share it with someone who might need it, and of course subscribe so you don't miss our next explainer. Thanks so much for watching.